Hey, it's Dr. Tangie Great, and welcome to Grate Conversations, where me and you will talk about living well, meaningful relationships, and small practices to shape a good life. If any of those things sound good to you, I want you to join this community. So remember to like, share this with a friend, maybe two, and subscribe. Come on, I know I got something good to tell you. Welcome back to another episode of Great Conversations with me, your host, Dr. Tangie. And you are in for a treat today because we are talking about my favorite thing ever, which is the menstrual cycle. If this is your very first time tuning into the Great Conversations, what I love to do is take really big concepts and break them out into super buildable practices. So, episode number one, we talked about support helping you find your joy. Then we talked about faith helping you find your joy. Then we went in with self regulation to help you receive and also radiate that joy. And today, we are talking about capacity because it is really hard to feel joy, accept joy, radiate joy when you are perpetually exhausted. And I truly believe that the menstrual cycle is God gift to every woman to when you need to find your center, when you need to problem solve. The menstrual cycle is there to help you. Yes, your periods can get annoying. Yes, the luteal phase is makes you feel like an ugly troll sometimes. However, acknowledging when those things happen is just the first step. I believe that there's strategy behind really understanding where you shine in each phase to work out different problems. So I thought it would be fun to, in real time, just go through with you some problems that we all share as women, which is chores and cooking, things that can simple things in life that sometimes bring us joy, but also are equally overwhelming, and how if something in that particular area was causing me stress or I wanted more whimsy, more whimsical about it, then I would use my menstrual phase in order to work that out. Because a lot of the times we are trying to push in different phases of our cycle where it's not time to push, when we need to be relaxing, resting, receiving, which leads to feeling overwhelmed because you are not the same every single week. And that's not you being a moody bitch. That's biology. And that is a gift. Society is not set up for women's 28-day cycle, but just because society isn't set up that way, that doesn't mean that you can't set your life up that way. So, we are going to start with that. Now, I do apologize. This audio may sound a little bit different because my microphone did die. This is also my third time recording this. So, bear with me and we're going to ride out together. This episode may be a little bit longer than that 25-minute mark that you are used to. So if you are doing this and doing a chore or doing another activity, you might want to pick a little longer activity instead of a 20-minute tidy, which is usually what I say my podcasts are perfect for. Maybe you're going to do a 20-minute tidy and then you're also going to fold some laundry. Okay? So let's get into it. The first phase of the menstrual cycle where I like to start is your period, right? And your period is the day one of like a real heavy bleed. I'm not talking about that little light spotting of a real bleed. And I'm not going to get into, you know, what the hormones are doing this or anything like that. We're going to talk about a strategy for you to feel less exhausted. So I like the period because this is a phase of your cycle where, guess what, girl? You're doing the bare minimum, okay? This is not the time where if we're going to take chores or cooking, let's say there's something particular about that just is bringing you strife. Like, for example, for me, on Sundays, there was this like uneasy tension I felt about meal prepping on Sundays, especially the Sundays before I start my long shift with work, I really wanted to not have to do any chores on Sunday. I just want to relax. And I found myself always like, you know how you make a to-do list to do things and you never do the things on your to-do list. And then you feel guilty about not doing the things on your to-do list, but you still make the same list over and over again and you never get it done. Have you been there? I've definitely been there. But using my menstrual cycle to help, reshape my focus and guide me, help with that. So the first thing is once I identify the problem, which was meal prepping, cooking, chores, insert your problem here. I am not trying to solve that problem in my when I'm on my period. I am just following whatever habits I have already established to help me through. Now, if you do not have any habits or anything like that established, this is not the time when you are on your period to do that, okay? You're going to save this podcast episode and you're going to wait until you're in another phase of your cycle. All right, this is not the time. Whatever you already have planned, whatever you've been doing, you're just unfortunately gonna be stuck doing that. This is not the time to rewrite the will. This is you don't even honestly, if you're in your period right now, you're probably not even doing no cleaning up. You should be doing the bare minimum, which means if you need your house needs to be a little bit messy during that week, if it can be a little bit messy. You might need to be canceling some things during this time, okay? So that what you're going to do during your period. Your capacity is low. And I want you to acknowledge that your capacity is low and then do something about it, okay? Don't just acknowledge it and still go on that dinner plan that you made 2 weeks ago. You may need to cancel that dinner plan, okay? So there's the first thing. The next is your follicular phase. Now, figuring out when you're in your follicular phase can be a little tricky because the follicular phase is that time that is when after your period ends. So let's say, for example, your period lasts 5 days, and that next day it's that in between time between after your period ends and when you ovulate. So you usually ovulate day 14. So anywhere between there is when you that's considered your follicular phase. So right now estrogen is back on the rise, and this is right here. I love to call this the problem solving curiosity creativity phase. Now, this right here, if there's any problems that you recognize while you're on your period, and newsflash, when you're on your period, you become keenly aware of things that you are not liking in your life. Okay? This is a time where you pick one thing, maybe two things, definitely no more than three. Actually, I take that back. Really, you don't want to do more than two things. And you're feeling better about life. You're realizing that you actually always been that girl. And you can get creative about how you're going to solve that problem. I know for me, what I came up with was that even though on Sundays I'm off, I decided I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to make that entire day a rest day. But that Monday, when I return to work, I don't work a full 12-hour shift. I just work 9 to 2. And that in between time, 2 and 5 o'clock before I have to go pick up AJ is when I'm going to do that meal prepping. And that felt so much better. But I did not get to think of that idea until I was on my follicular phase. And if there's something that is really like just getting on my nerves and I can't figure out what it is, I love to think about it during the follicular phase because I find that that is when I get super creative about how to solve things that are causing me overwhelm in my life so they're not that overwhelming. Because the truth of the matter is sometimes you are the drama in your own life, especially during your period. And the follicular phase allows you to face that proof that you are the drama and come up with a solution. The next is your ovulatory phase. And I know this phase right here, people talk about, feeling good, confidence, the sex. I see a lot of content about how the ovulatory phase makes you want to like a good looking man walk past you, you're like, okay, I see you. Because that is the phase when your body is trying to get you pregnant. But you can take that same type of pleasure seeking energy and you can use that for yourself to find pleasurable things, because I hope that the only thing in your life that's pleasurable or that you think is pleasurable is sex. Okay, sex is a very pleasurable thing, but that is not the only thing that brings you pleasure. And this is the time where if there is a mundane task like chores or cooking, where you can get creative of how to make that task more pleasurable and actually put whatever ideas you had in the follicular phase. This is the time where you can actually try it. The follicular phase and the ovulatory phase are the best time to try out that new routine or that new whatever it is, not to be a routine, but that new idea that you came up with that is really going to help you feel less overwhelmed and have more capacity for other things. Because I feel like when we say, oh, I don't have the capacity for this right now, it's like because my cup is filled with other things. Does that make sense? I hope it's making sense what I'm saying. Like, I feel that when I say I don't have the capacity for something, sometimes there are things that I really, really want to do, but I'm filled with doing other things. And when you are in your follicular or your ovulatory phase, you can figure out what other things you need to let go of so you can be have the capacity for things you really want to do. And I think that's why there's so much discourse or feelings of, it's not inadequate, that's not the word I want to say, of dissatisfaction. Is it dissatisfaction? No, that's not the word. Like, whatever the opposite of content. You know, like, you don't feel content with your life sometimes because you're too busy doing the things that you don't want to do, and you don't have any time to do the things that you want to do or that bring you pleasure. And I'm hoping that in your follicular phase and your ovulatory phase, you have more capacity and more brain space to figure out how you can get more of those things. I hope I'm making sense. Doing this by yourself is really hard because there's nobody to talk to say, hey, is this making sense? It's not making sense. Anyway, we're going to keep on going. All right, we already talked about pleasure seeking. The next phase we're going to talk about is your luteal phase. And I know the luteal phase gets a bad rap. Wait, before I'm going to go to the luteal phase, I'm going to backtrack a little bit because if you have your calendar out, let's go back and say where we were. So we did your period. That's going to be day 1 to day 5, or whatever your ending day is. It's personalized to you. I'm just giving general numbers so that you can fill in the blank. The next is your follicular phase, and that's when your period is over, you're not bleeding anymore, and before you ovulate. Now, if you are a woman that's on non hormonal birth control, then how the best way I can tell you to know when you're ovulating is by your cervical mucus. So you know you have hit that ovulatory phase when your cervical mucus usually is kind of like milky white like lotion. It's going to change into like a like snot, that mucusy feeling. You know, that feeling that you get where you're like, okay, I'm ready to do the business. I'm ready to do the thing. When you notice that, that's how you know that you are ovulating, and you're going to know a shift in your energy, and you can use that same energy to figure out how to make those mundane tasks more pleasurable, like chores or cooking, because those are the tasks that we're talking about right now. I know a big thing that I started to do to make it more pleasurable is I usually save, like, I like to listen to smut. So I listen to smut when I'm doing the dishes. And I wait until I'm going to listen to it until I have like dishes to do or some type of chore. Like tonight, once we're finished, I'm going to finish the rest of my book, and I'm also going to be cleaning, and I'm very excited about that. So that's just one example you can take for that. Now we can move on to our luteal phase. Now you may be asking, well, Tangie, how do I know when my ovulatory phase is over? And for me, again, I like to use cervical mucus because it's like the easiest thing to identify. And so, again, your cervical mucus is going to change from that clear mucus back to kind of lotioning. You notice that your sprinkler system, instead of being on like high volume, is turned down a notch, especially if you're not taking anything specifically to make your sprinkler system keep going at that same high frequency. We're all adults here. I'm pretty sure we know what we're talking about when I say sprinkler system. Now, for my girlies who are in perimenopause, this may be a little bit different for you. I'm not exactly sure because I have not experienced that yet. But again, if you are going through that perimenopausal time, I'm hoping that this is not your first time tracking your cycle. But if it is, usually the ovulatory phase, to make it all easy, you can say about a week. After that week is over, you can go ahead and think that you're in your luteal phase. You may notice another shift in your mood. I know for me, I notice that mood shifts, like it's all of the areas in my house I notice are dirty. And sometimes when I'm in my ovulatory phase, I feel like I put on rose colored glasses. Oh, wait, we're going to go back one more time. Another thing that I wrote down that I did not want to forget in the ovulatory phase, you are feeling so good in your ovulatory phase. This is when you can overcommit. Okay? So you know that dinner that you planned when before you check to see if you're gonna be on your period, because you're not doing that no more after listening to this. Before you say yes to that dinner, to that girl's date or whatever, you are going to check your calendar and see will you be on your period during that time, especially if it's a month from now. Okay, we're not going to make that same mistake you made, 2 3 weeks ago, when you're your period and you had to go to that dinner or that birthday party or whatever it was, and you didn't want to cancel because you didn't want to be a bad friend and you love this person, right? And by no means am I saying that because you're on your period, you can't do the fun things that you want to do. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that if there's things that you don't really want to do and you only said yes to those things because you felt so good that you were in your ovulatory phase, and that's something to be aware of. It's so insane to me how sometimes as women we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Like it really is it's funny. And so it's like if you know during your period, no matter what you do, you're not going to feel pretty or whatever it is. And that may sound like a superficial thing, but I feel like for women, feeling pretty, feeling like look good is not a superficial thing. It's something that is very important. And so if that's stopping you from enjoying yourself, then wouldn't it make sense to at least have some type of plan that hey, when I say yes to this dinner plan, I know that I'm not going to feel my best. Let me find the outfit that I feel confident in no matter what phase of the cycle my body is in, so that when I'm at this dinner, when I'm at this event, I still feel really good. Hopefully that's making sense. But I digress. Back to your luteal phase. So, fun fact about the luteal phase, this phase we actually spend the most time in as women. And so it's very important that you get comfortable with good old Ludi, okay? You and Ludi need to be homegirls. Now, she may not be your favorite homegirl, but she should be, because you are actually going to spend more time there. And that's not me just, making stuff up. That's a fact. Like your luteal phase is longer than ovulatory phase. It's longer than follicular phase. And it's definitely longer than when you're in your period. So during this time, this is where you are actually truly practicing what you came up with in your follicular and your ovulatory phase. You are doing those habits no matter what you're trying to get. You're not necessarily thinking of anything new to try, and some new things may be coming up because I feel like when I'm on my luteal phase, as I mentioned before, it's really easy for me to see everything that I don't like. But what I try to do is just like understand that I know I'm in my luteal phase, and I just like take a deep breath, like we talked about before, and I let it go. And I don't forget about it. If it's bothering me enough, I'll write it down again, and then I circle back to it. But 2 weeks have gone by, you know, and you should have some type of plan in place to really be able to focus on that. The luteal phase is such a powerful phase because I feel like this is the time where it's like when you turn 30. For my girl, you have turned 30. You know, you just feel like you know what you will and you won't tolerate. And your luteal phase, you are more prone to be like, I'm not tolerating this. And sometimes when you say I'm not tolerating this, it's not even to anybody else, it's to yourself. It's to yourself when you're saying, okay, I'm not going to tolerate me saying I'm going to go to bed at this time, and I keep on deciding to scroll on my phone instead. I love myself enough to not keep on breaking promises to myself. And when you can master those habits that are hard to do during your luteal phase, when you really do not feel like it, it's like a little coin in your like mental piggy bank to be like, ooh, I can really do hard things. And you're able to find more joy because some things become automatic. So there are certain systems in my life that no matter what phase of my cycle I'm in, those things don't change, but that all came from practice. And so I hope all of that was extremely helpful to you for figuring out what to do in your capacity. Again, this is how I think about problems in my life. I go right back to my good old menstrual phase because she will be with me as long as she can. And the only thing I wish is I wish I would have learned about this like while I was in pharmacy school, in my like early 20s. I wish I would have learned about this. I didn't really understand and learn about the power of this until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but it has made a complete difference in me not getting burnt out because I am slowing down. And so, like in my luteal phase, I'm not necessarily starting anything new. I'm finishing up projects that I already wanted to start. So I'm just putting a bow on something, doing the finishing touches. You know how we do our finishing touches as women after we put our outfit on, we like check our hair one more time. We apply our lip gloss one more time to make sure that everything is straight. That's what I think about the luteal phase. It's just a little bit of straightening, right? It's a little straightening. It's not, you're not doing the most, you're not doing too much, you're just coasting on what you already built and been practicing. So remember, before you go, I want you to ask yourself, what can I do right now to live well? Hopefully, you're taking advice from something like this and giving it a try with a problem or a scenario that you've been trying to fix or get better at. Maybe the trick was thinking about it during your follicular or your ovulatory phase. And we cannot leave without Tangie's one great thing that she is loving this month. And I feel like, sorry for the YouTubers, I may go off screen for a bit. Okay, we are not going to be able to show it because we had to do some different things for production. But my one favorite thing right now is the XO body wash. I know, what a coincidence. We're talking about these. We're talking about our menstrual phase, but I love the Salt XO Yoni gel. I've tried the seedless and I've tried the non-seedless, and they're both fantastic when it comes to just feeling super clean, and you can actually really use it like on your entire yoni, you know. Smells good, smells fresh, smells clean. It's just my favorite thing. So much so that I actually really committed and I got the subscription. So I just don't have to worry about trying to reorder it. But I was inspired, honestly, by one of my other social media friends. She had it. I believe her Instagram handle is under Raven Wilson. And I saw her talk about it. And because it's like she's a real person, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe instead of hearing about it all the time on the Poor Minds podcast, if there's a sponsorship that they have, I was like, okay, this is a real person that I know. This must be a really good product. And so hopefully, if you're looking for a good, gentle, vaginal wash to use, Saw XO, they are your new favorite vagina's bestie. Okay. And that's it. Remember, living well does not happen by accident. I will see you next week.